Hello everyone, my name is Zachary, and this is my game Garbanzo Quest. In this game, you play as Garbanzo, of course. Garbanzo is a simple person. They can run, jump, and most importantly of all, they can spit. There are many things in the world for Garbanzo to spit on. They can spit on the local wildlife, weak walls, poorly crafted furniture, their friends, buttons, and bullets, to name a few. Garbanzo also has a friend named Pinto. Garbanzo is both a single-player game and a two-player game. If I had to put it simply, I would describe Garbanzo Quest as a crazy, bullet-heck pixel art platformer. It takes inspiration from older titles like Super Mario World, newer titles like Celeste and Undertale, while also doing its own experimentation to create a new experience. I am the only developer, and I've been working on this game full-time for over 2 years. Garbanzo Quest is in early access, and I would say that it's about 70% completed at the moment. I'm really happy with how the game has turned out so far, and I believe that once it's finished, it will be a strong title. I've been wanting to share more of my experience creating Garbanzo Quest through video, and I've tried in the past, but I've found it distracting trying to work on the game and think about creating a video at the same time. So rather than chronicle my day-to-day work as I'm doing it, I thought that I could instead dissect my work after the fact. In this video, I will be going through various parts of Garbanzo Quest and explaining different decisions and problems that I think might be interesting. So let's start at the very beginning. Once the game starts, it fades in with a simple credit and it shows Garbanzo moving on their own. I don't like it when games take too long with their opening credits, so I made sure to make it quick here. I put my name as the first thing you see, not as a point of ego, but in an attempt to humanize the game. I really liked how in Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, the developer was speaking directly to the player as themselves.
Oh, you just lost a lot of progress.
I feel like that adds a lot of charm to the game. They even did a talk on this subject, going over why it's important to remind players that games are made by real people. If you've ever played Super Mario World, you'll easily recognize this title screen. I really like this idea, not just as a nod to one of my favorite games, but for the problems it helps to solve. Before the game even starts, you can already see the character you will control move around on their own. This already gives you an idea of what you are able to do in the game. Mario can jump, Mario can land on enemies, Mario can pick up things, Mario can run, Mario can kick things. You get the idea. Garbanzo Quest is much the same. Garbanzo can jump, Garbanzo can spit, Garbanzo can get hurt, Garbanzo can destroy bullets, Garbanzo can spit on enemies, Garbanzo can swim, and so on. When you start a new file, you'll be greeted by the narrator. That's me. There's a few things I need to figure out before the game can start. Most games use a single page form to collect this information, but I thought it would be more fun if I did it through dialogue instead. Of course, we start with a name. I'll try not to spoil all the hidden gags, but if you refuse to give a name, you'll be given a random one. This time I got Stinky. The game might be called Garbanzo Quest, but there are a few different characters you can play as. There are 2 new characters here I've yet to mention. First is Frankie. Yes, this really is my dog.
He's so good. Come on. Get it.
I just thought it would be funny. Again, I'm kind of playing into the charm of being the only developer for this game. This is Ghostly. All the characters play the same except for Ghostly. This character is invincible and can fly around. This is a good character if you want to play 2-player with your friend, but they're not very good at video games. I'm just going to go with Garbanzo for now. Here, I'm asking if you want to play with tweaks enabled. With this on, you can give yourself more health and slow down the game if you're having a hard time. If you've ever played Celeste, this is much like their assist mode. I can't call it assist mode here because you can also make the game harder with tweaks, as you can give yourself less health and increase the game speed up to 200%. We're gonna go without this for now. Since this is an early access game, I'm trying to encourage people to give me feedback. So to do that, I just added a button that links you to a Google form. There's better ways to do this, I'm sure, but this was a pretty quick way to put it together. Here, you can report bugs or give feedback about the game. I'm even able to include crash logs and save data through URL parameters. URLs longer than 2,000 characters aren't guaranteed to work, so in order to meet that limit, I'm compressing the data into base 64. This reduces the character limit to around 25% of its original size. Both crash logs and save data are stored in human-readable formats. Most games insist on making their save data tamper-proof, but I really don't care. I value being open, so I've gone out of my way to make sure lots of things are easy to tinker with. All sprites, songs, sound effects, and even levels are stored in formats that are easily editable. I'm even working on polishing up my level editor for public use so people can make their own levels. Anyways, that's the final question before the intro cutscene. I'll let this play out and then I'll come back and go over some things. The story of Garbanzo Quest isn't too complicated, but it is something I'm taking seriously. Garbanzo Quest is a fun first action platformer game, but it did feel like it was missing something before I started adding more narrative elements into it. So in this first panel, we see the friendly and peaceful inhabitants of the world. A lot of these characters are scraps from other projects I never finished. This guy in the front is from one of my cartoons I made when I was first learning how to animate over 10 years ago.
Cow! Thank you, Boo. You are my hero.
When I was first coming up with the gameplay routine, I was trying to figure out how to end levels. I settled pretty quickly on breaking someone out of a cage, and I have a lot of fun coming up with silly characters, so I thought that everyone should be different. This was also an opportunity to inject some more narrative into the game. Being an action game, I struggled to find a way to include dialogue in a way that wouldn't be jarring. Establishing this routine helps set up basic expectations for pacing, so you're not annoyed when people are talking to you. I usually try to make the dialogue dense too. Characters will usually only have 1 or 2 dialogue boxes when you're saving them. In these next few panels, I'm just setting up the conflict. Here, I'm introducing the idea of the forever winter. When I was coming up with the first level of the game, I had this song laying around that I really liked, so I came up with a level theme to match it. It's from there I worked the winter theme into the narrative. Here we meet Billy Bones, the main villain of the game. I'm really happy with how his design came out. I really tried to make him as campy as possible. First, I started with a skeleton, because those are always evil, and then I combined that with the greedy businessman cliché, and pushed that as much as possible with the money sign suit. Now we see that everyone has been put in chains and the world has been renamed to Freedom Land. It's about now maybe you're getting an idea from my perspective. Something you might have noticed is that Garbanzo has arms. Their gameplay sprite doesn't, because it's difficult to add details like that at such a small resolution without things looking cluttered. It's important in larger resolutions though, because it allows them to be more expressive. So now, we're finally into the first level. Of course, it's now that we will want to teach the player how to play the game. We want a tutorial that clearly communicates what is possible while also being brief. So to start, I'll tell you to press enter to jump. Once you've managed that, I'll tell you how to move. You didn't see this kind of tutorialization in older games, as they would expect you to experiment a little more. That made more sense back then, as the developers knew exactly what kind of controller you were using. Modern PC games, however, can be played with many different kinds of input devices, so I think it's important to be a little more explicit as to what buttons do things. I've made button prompts for all the modern common controller types and some older ones as well. With nowhere else to go, really, we'll go to the right. You'll come to find soon that is what we're trying to do most of the time. Here's our first real hurdle. You absolutely must jump to get past this obstacle. The second one is much taller. This is to make sure that players know that they can hold jump to go higher. Garbanzo's max jump height is 3.5 tiles high. I don't need to explicitly state that, as I can teach that through play instead. Here it is, our main weapon, the spit. By putting this prompt in front of these crumbly walls, I can also show that they are able to be destroyed. This next hurdle is simple, but important. Here, I'm making sure that you know you can jump and spit at the same time. Moving on, we combine spitting with yet another action, looking up and down. So right here at the end, I'm just combining all the previously learned actions to make sure you understand your abilities. This last action is somewhat optional. It is the moonwalk. Moonwalking is incredibly useful as it allows you to run away from an enemy while spitting on them at the same time. I've struggled a bit with properly teaching this action as there really isn't a simple way to force the player to use it here. So that's the tutorial, quick and painless. Now that we have all the different abilities communicated, we can start adding actual obstacles. We're now encountering our first enemy. Spitting on them will reveal that they can no longer hurt you, but wait long enough and you'll see that they're back to their regular selves. Garbanzo cannot do murder. They can only momentarily disable with their disgusting spit. Alright, moving on, we'll jump over this spike pit. It's a bold choice to put ice physics in the first level, I know. So next we have a spike pit and an enemy in our way at the same time. This is a pretty simple level design idea, where we introduce two things separately and then combine them later. You'll be seeing a lot of this in the rest of the game. You thought the tutorial was over, huh? Though this is more of a tip, I guess. This wasn't always explicitly stated, but it's really important and enough people were missing this mechanic that I felt it should be more obvious. Again, another tip. I really don't like button mashing, and I really wanted to make it clear that that wasn't necessary. So here, I'm reminding you that you can simply hold down the button to spit. All the snow people we've met so far have been very friendly and helpful. These ones, not so much. Maybe there's something to be said, game design wise, about how it's bad to have friendly snow people and evil ones right next to each other. But I don't want my game to be too neat. Anyways, I think this adds some humor and character to the game. Here, we can see every element introduced so far has been combined into one big obstacle, therefore testing your knowledge thus far. So here's our first friend. Though, if you have a curious eye, you may notice the level keeps going. They can wait. Oh, a treasure chest. So, there's a lot of secret extra rooms in the game. They're not too well hidden, they're just supposed to be rewards for being curious. Surprise, it's evil. Spit on it enough and you'll make a new friend. There's a small design conflict here. So far, I've taught you that enemies can't be killed and that it's usually best to just run away from them. But this enemy gives you a reward for reducing their health to 0. I don't know, I don't think it's a big deal. So our box friend is still here. Let's break them out. This is Bruce, one of the friends from the opening cutscene. He's a little more chatty than the other friends you'll meet, as he delivers some narrative stuff and explains the existence of the home base. So far, he's the most fleshed out friend character. I recently gave him a shirt to make him look more competent. A lot of the friends you meet are misfits. If you do happen to find one of these treasure chest friends, they'll give you an item at the end of the level. This time it's a power fragment, and also another friend. This guy will be in charge of helping set up new abilities. More about that later. So that's the end of the first level. We've established most of the main ideas that we'll be building on for the rest of the game. That's just one of 37 levels that are implemented in the currently released version of Garbanzo Quest. When the game exits early access, it's a plan to have around double that. In order to be able to work on this game as much as I have, I've had to draw from my life savings to support myself, while living as cheaply as possible. For 5 years, I worked for various companies making websites and the like to save up that money. My main plan is to make my money back selling the game once it's done. I thought releasing my game in early access would help slow the bleeding financially, but it really hasn't. It's been very helpful in getting feedback about the game, but it's currently not paying for my bills. Currently, I've only sold around 200 copies. Now that's nice, but if it takes me 3 years of full-time work to finish this game, it's going to take at the very least 10,000 copies sold for me to make my money back. Let me show you the math. 10,000 copies times $20 a copy is $200,000. Almost $250,000 sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, once Steam takes their 30% cut, that's going to be $140,000 left over. That's still pretty good, right? Well, divide that by every year I've worked on the game, and you'll get a salary of around $47,000 a year. Now, let's say the government takes an income tax of around 25%. So now I only get $35,000 a year. That's about $3,000 a month I get to actually take home. Now, according to Forbes, in 2022, the average cost of living for a single person was $3,700. So if I can meet my goal, that means I can live modestly for another 3 years. That's enough time to make another game and repeat the process. 10,000 copies sounds like a lot. Do you think I can sell that many? Well, let's take a look at another indie game in my cohort and see how they did. There's this game called Pizza Tower. Maybe you've heard of it. It's another pixel art platformer made by a small team that draws from older Nintendo games as its main inspiration. Do you know how many copies Pizza Tower sold? According to Video Game Insights, almost 1 million. That's right, my game needs to be 1% as successful as Pizza Tower for me to keep going. So yeah, I've risked a lot to make this game. The past 2 years have had their fair share of challenges, and I've done a lot of growing up while working on this project, but I'm grateful for the adventure. I really do love what I do, and I only hope I get to make more games after this one. Now, there's still plenty to talk about, but I think that's a good place to wind things down for now. If you're interested in playing Garbanzo Quest yourself, Early Access version 0.7 is out now. Leaving a review on Steam or giving feedback through the feedback form are both ways you can help Garbanzo Quest be the best game it can be. Go to garbanzoquest.com for more. You'll also see that I have some merch. All stickers are homemade by me and shipped to anywhere in the world. It's now that I'd like to thank my patrons for supporting development. Thank you to John Paul Gardner, Dojin Shinji, I Am Dylan, Ishmael Rodriguez, Osto, Peyton Studebaker, Quentin McCollum, and Ryan Neese. If you'd like for me to say your name bad, please go to patreon.com/ZachIsAGardener.
Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.